When the storm hit, Maya thought the biggest danger was the flooding, until she discovered her alien roommate's secret that would change both their lives forever. Maya had always been good at noticing small details. It came with being a science student, she supposed. So when her roommate Zephyr started acting weird 3 days ago, she picked up on it right away. It started with little things. Zephyr used to sit next to her on the couch while they watched movies. Now he chose the chair across the room. When she handed him his coffee in the morning, he made sure their fingers didn't touch. And instead of their usual evening talks about work and life, he would disappear into his room right after dinner. Maya tried to convince herself it was nothing. Maybe he was stressed about his job at the communication center. Working with newly arrived aliens and helping them adjust to Earth couldn't be easy. Or maybe he was homesick. Even though Zephyr had lived on Earth for 3 years, he rarely talked about his home planet. But yesterday morning, she found him standing by the big window in their living room, just staring out at the city. His silver-tinted skin seemed paler than usual, and those violet eyes of his looked distant, almost sad. "Hey, you okay?" she had asked, walking up behind him with 2 cups of tea. Zephyr jumped like she had scared him. "I'm fine," he said quickly, but his voice sounded strained. He took the tea without looking at her and went straight to his room. That afternoon, Maya decided to do some research. If something was wrong with Zephyr, maybe she could find answers in her studies. As a graduate student in xenobiology, she had access to tons of research about different alien species. She spent hours going through academic papers about Exerians, Zephyr's people. Most of it was basic stuff she already knew. Exerians looked mostly human, but with silver skin and purple eyes. They were peaceful, intelligent, and had better senses than humans. But then she found something interesting. A small note in one research paper mentioned something called seasonal behavioral changes in Exerians. The paper didn't explain much, just that Exerians sometimes experienced biological cycles that affect behavior and social interaction. Maya frowned at her computer screen. What did that mean? She searched for more information but found almost nothing. It was like scientists knew something existed but weren't talking about it openly. She was still searching when she heard the front door slam. Maya looked up to see Zephyr grabbing his jacket from the coat rack. "Where are you going?" she asked. "It's getting dark and the weather report said there's a big storm coming." Zephyr paused with his hand on the door handle. For a second, Maya thought he might actually answer her, but then he just said, "I need some air," and left. That was 6 hours ago. Now Maya sat on their couch watching the news with growing worry. The storm had turned out to be much worse than anyone expected. Heavy rain pounded against their windows and the wind howled like something alive. The news reporter was talking about flooding in the lower parts of the city and power outages spreading across the region. Maya tried calling Zephyr, but her phone had no signal. The storm was messing with all the communication towers. She walked to the window and looked out at the street below. Water was already rising, covering the sidewalks and reaching halfway up the parked cars. Where was Zephyr? Was he safe? Maya paced around their apartment, checking her phone every few minutes and hoping for some sign that he was okay. Their apartment was on the 3rd floor of an old warehouse that had been converted into living spaces. It was in the interspecies district where humans and aliens lived together. Maya had moved here because the rent was cheap and she liked the diverse neighborhood. She had never expected to worry about floods. The lights flickered, then went out completely. Maya fumbled for her phone's flashlight and found some candles in the kitchen drawer. The apartment felt different in the candlelight, shadows dancing on the walls and making everything seem smaller. She was lighting the 4th candle when she heard footsteps in the hallway outside. Maya ran to the door and looked through the peephole. Relief flooded through her when she saw Zephyr's familiar figure. Though he was soaked from head to toe, she yanked the door open. "Thank goodness you're okay. I was so worried." Zephyr stepped inside, dripping water all over their floor. His silver hair was plastered to his head and his clothes were completely soaked. But it was his expression that made Maya pause. He looked panicked, not just wet and uncomfortable, but genuinely distressed. "You need to get some dry clothes," Maya said, grabbing a towel from the bathroom. "I'll make some hot tea." "No." Zephyr's voice was sharper than she'd ever heard it. "I mean, thank you, but—" He ran a hand through his wet hair. "Maya, you should call someone. Stay with a friend until this storm passes." Maya stared at him. "What? Why would I do that? This is my home too." I know, but Zephyr looked around their apartment like he was seeing it for the first time. It would be better if you weren't here right now. Better for who? Zephyr, you're not making sense. Maya stepped closer to him and she could see his whole body tense up. Are you feeling sick? You look feverish. She reached out to touch his forehead, but Zephyr jerked back so fast he almost fell over. The reaction was so extreme that Maya felt hurt and confused. Don't, he said, his voice almost a whisper. Please don't touch me right now. They stood there in the candlelit apartment, staring at each other. The storm raged outside and Maya could hear water lapping at the building. She realized with growing alarm that even if she wanted to leave, she probably couldn't. The streets were flooded, and emergency services had told everyone to stay indoors. Zephyr, she said carefully, we're stuck here together whether we like it or not. The whole district is flooded, so you need to tell me what's going on. Zephyr closed his eyes and leaned against the door. In the flickering candlelight, Maya noticed something she hadn't seen before. His skin had a subtle shimmer to it, like it was glowing from within. And was it her imagination, or did the air around him feel warmer? When Zephyr opened his eyes again, they seemed brighter than usual, almost luminous in the dark room. You really want to know?
He asked, his voice quiet but intense. Maya nodded.
Yes, I'm your friend, Zephyr. Whatever it is, we can figure it out together. Zephyr let out a long breath. My people, Exerians, we have biological cycles, like many species do, but ours are triggered by atmospheric pressure changes. Big storms, weather systems. He gestured toward the window where rain was still pounding. They affect us in ways that are complicated. Maya felt her scientific mind kicking in even as her heart was racing. What kind of effects? It's called mating season, Zephyr said simply. And this storm has triggered mine. The words hung in the air between them. Maya felt her cheeks grow warm as she realized what this meant. All of Zephyr's strange behavior, the avoiding contact, the restlessness, the way he seemed to be fighting something inside himself. How long does it last? She asked, surprised by how calm her voice sounded. Usually a few days, sometimes a week depending on the weather system. Zephyr looked at her with those bright purple eyes. And Maya? This storm is supposed to last for at least 3 days. Outside, thunder crashed and the lights in the building across the street flickered and went dark. Maya looked around their small apartment, then back at Zephyr, who was trying very hard not to look directly at her. 3 days, trapped together, with Zephyr going through something she didn't fully understand, but that clearly involved intense physical and emotional changes. This was definitely not covered in any of her textbooks. Maya stared at Zephyr for a long moment, processing what he had just told her. Mating season. The words echoed in her mind, and she felt her scientific curiosity battling with a strange flutter in her stomach. Okay, she said finally, settling down on the couch. I need you to explain this to me properly. Like, what exactly does this mean for you? What happens during this cycle? Zephyr remained standing by the door, his wet clothes still dripping onto the floor. He looked uncomfortable, like he wanted to disappear into the walls. It's not something we talk about with other species, he said quietly. It's considered very private. Well, we're kind of past privacy now, don't you think? Maya gestured around their candlelit apartment. We're stuck here together, and you're clearly going through something difficult. Help me understand so I can help you. Zephyr ran his hands through his damp hair and finally moved away from the door. He sat down in the chair across from her, the same one he'd been choosing for the past few days instead of sitting next to her on the couch. For Exerians, it's not just about physical urges, he began, his voice careful and measured. It affects everything. Our emotions become stronger, more intense. Our senses get sharper. We feel everything more deeply. Maya nodded, encouraging him to continue. She could see how hard this was for him to talk about. We also become very sensitive to the people around us, Zephyr continued, especially people we care about. Their scent, their voice, even their heartbeat becomes overwhelming. As if to prove his point, Zephyr's eyes flickered to Maya's face and then quickly away. She noticed his hands were gripping the arms of his chair tightly. Is that why you've been avoiding me? She asked softly. Yes. The word came out as barely more than a whisper. Maya, you don't understand. When this happens, we're supposed to isolate ourselves or return to our homeworld where there are others of our kind who understand. We're not supposed to be around people we... He stopped abruptly. People we what? Zephyr was quiet for so long that Maya thought he wasn't going to answer. Outside, the storm continued to rage, and she could hear water dripping somewhere in the building. "People we have feelings for," he said finally. Maya felt her heart skip a beat. Feelings? She had always thought they were just good friends and roommates. Sure, she found Zephyr attractive. It was hard not to, with his unique silver skin and those incredible violet eyes. And yes, she enjoyed their conversations and felt comfortable around him, in a way she didn't with most people. But feelings? "Zephyr," she said carefully. "What kind of feelings?" He looked up at her then, and in the candlelight his eyes seemed to glow with an inner light. The kind that make this whole situation very dangerous for both of us. Maya felt a shiver that had nothing to do with the storm outside. Dangerous how? Because when Xerians go through this cycle, we don't just want companionship. We want to bond. Really bond. It's not like human dating or relationships. For us, when we choose someone during this time, it's permanent. It changes both people involved in ways that can't be undone. The weight of his words settled over Maya like a heavy blanket. She thought about all the research she'd tried to do earlier. How little information was available about Xerian biological cycles. Now she understood why. This wasn't just academic information. This was deeply personal, life-changing stuff. "What happens if you don't bond with someone?" she asked. "What if you just wait it out?" Zephyr's expression grew darker. "That's what I've been trying to do for the past few days. Fighting it, suppressing it, but it's getting harder. Harder how? Everything hurts," he admitted. "My head, my body, my heart. It's like my entire system is rebelling against me. And the longer I fight it, the worse it gets." Maya leaned forward, her concern overriding everything else. "Zephyr, that sounds awful. Why didn't you tell me sooner? We could have figured something out." "Like what?" He laughed, but there was no humor in it. "Maya, there's nowhere for me to go. The spaceport is closed because of the storm. Even if it wasn't, I can't afford a trip back to Xeria right now. And isolation." He looked around their small apartment. "This isn't exactly isolated." Maya followed his gaze. Their converted warehouse apartment was essentially one big room with a tiny kitchen and bathroom. There was nowhere to hide, nowhere to get real distance from each other. "So you've just been torturing yourself instead," she said, and she couldn't keep the frustration out of her voice. "Zephyr, that's not a solution. It's the only option I have that doesn't involve—" He trailed off again. "That doesn't involve what?" "Bonding with me?" The question hung in the air between them. Maya hadn't meant to be so direct, but now that the words were out, she couldn't take them back. Zephyr's eyes met hers, and she saw pain and longing and fear all mixed together. "Yes, and you automatically assumed I wouldn't want that?" "Maya," Zephyr's voice was strained. "You don't understand what you're saying. Xerian bonding isn't just emotional. It creates a mental connection between two people. You would be able to feel my emotions, sometimes even my thoughts, and it's permanent. There's no going back once it happens." Maya was quiet for a moment, trying to process this information. A mental connection? The scientist in her was fascinated. The woman in her was terrified and intrigued at the same time. "What does it feel like?" she asked. "The bonding process, I mean." Zephyr shifted in his chair, and Maya noticed that his skin was definitely glowing more brightly now. The shimmer she'd noticed earlier was more pronounced, and the air around him seemed warmer. "I can't explain it to someone who hasn't experienced it," he said. "But imagine the deepest connection you've ever felt with another person, and then multiply that by 1,000. You become part of each other in ways that human relationships don't usually reach. And you've been feeling the urge to do this with me? For months," Zephyr admitted, his voice so quiet she almost couldn't hear him over the storm. "But I kept telling myself it was just because we live together, because you're kind to me, because you're one of the few humans who treats me like I'm just a person instead of an alien curiosity." Maya felt her heart racing. Months. He'd been feeling this way for months, and she had no idea. But now, with the storm and the cycle, Zephyr continued, "Now it's not just a feeling anymore. It's a need." "Yes." They sat in silence for a while, the candles flickering between them. Maya could hear Zephyr's breathing, which seemed faster than normal. She could also swear she could feel heat radiating from him, even from across the room. "Zephyr," she said finally, "what happens if you keep fighting this? What happens to you?" He closed his eyes. "Eventually my body will shut down. The stress of suppression during a cycle can cause serious health problems. Some Xerians have even—" He stopped. "Even what?" "Some have died from it." Maya felt her blood run cold. "What?" "It's rare," Zephyr said quickly. "But it has happened. When an Xerian fights their biological cycle for too long, especially when there's a compatible partner nearby, the stress can be too much for their system to handle." Maya stood up abruptly, her scientific mind reeling. "So you're telling me that you'd rather risk your health, maybe even your life, than talk to me about this?" "I'm telling you that I'd rather risk myself than force you into something you don't understand and didn't choose. But what if I did choose it?" The words were out before Maya could stop them. Zephyr's eyes snapped open, and he stared at her with an intensity that made her feel like he could see right through her. "Maya, you can't possibly know what you're saying, can't I?" She moved closer to him and she saw him tense up again. "Zephyr, we've been living together for almost a year. You're my best friend. You're kind, intelligent, funny. And yes, I find you attractive. Maybe I've been having feelings too and just didn't know what to do with them." "This is different," Zephyr said, but his voice lacked conviction now. "Maybe it is," Maya agreed. "But maybe different isn't necessarily bad." The storm outside seemed to grow louder, as if responding to the tension in the room. Maya realized she was standing very close to Zephyr now, close enough to see the conflict in his glowing eyes, close enough to feel the warmth coming from his skin. "Tell me honestly," she said softly. "If there were no complications, no permanent bonding, no mental connections, if this was just two people who care about each other, would you want this?" Zephyr looked up at her and Maya saw his careful control finally starting to crack. "Yes," he whispered, "more than anything." Maya felt her heart pounding as Zephyr's whispered confession hung between them. The candlelight flickered across his face, highlighting the conflict in his glowing violet eyes. She had taken a step that couldn't be undone, and now they both had to face what came next. "Maya," Zephyr said, his voice shaky, "you need to step back." Instead of moving away, Maya sat down on the edge of the coffee table, bringing herself to his eye level. She could see him struggling with himself, his hands gripping the chair arms so tightly that his knuckles had gone pale. "What if I don't want to step back?" she asked softly. "You don't understand what you're doing to me right now," Zephyr said, his breathing becoming more labored. "Your scent, the sound of your voice, even the way you're looking at me, it's all amplified for me right now. I can hear your heartbeat and it's driving me crazy." Maya glanced down at herself, suddenly self-conscious. She was wearing an old college sweatshirt and jeans, nothing special, but the way Zephyr was looking at her made her feel like she was the most beautiful thing he'd ever seen. "Tell me more about the bonding," she said. "I want to understand everything before we make any decisions." Zephyr closed his eyes and leaned his head back against the chair. "It starts with emotional connection. When two compatible people are close during an Xerian cycle, their emotions begin to sync up. You start feeling what I feel and I feel what you feel. And then comes the mental link. Thoughts, memories, experiences, they start to blur together. You become part of me and I become part of you." He opened his eyes and looked at her. "Maya, some bonded Xerians can't function apart from their partners. They become so connected that separation is physically painful." Maya absorbed this information, her scientific mind working through the implications. "But you said some. Not all, right?" "Right. Some couples learn to maintain their individual identities while sharing a connection. But Maya, there's no way to know which kind of bond you'll have until it's already happened, and there's no way to undo it once it's done." The storm outside seemed to be getting stronger, rattling the windows and making the old building creak. Maya could hear water still rising in the streets below. They really were trapped here together for better or worse. "What about the physical aspects?" she asked, trying to keep her voice steady. Zephyr's glow intensified and Maya could swear the temperature in the room had gone up a few degrees. "It's not just about physical attraction, though that's part of it. During the bonding process, Xerians share life force. It's supposed to strengthen both partners, make them healthier, more resilient." "That doesn't sound so bad." "It isn't if both people truly want it. But Maya, you're human. We don't know how this process would affect you. There's no research on human Xerian bonding because it's never been studied properly." Maya stood up and started pacing, her mind racing. "So I'd be like a test subject." "In a way, yes." She stopped and looked at him. "And you've been dealing with wanting this for months?" "Wanting me?" Zephyr nodded, looking miserable. I tried to ignore it. I told myself it was just because you're the first human who treated me like family, instead of an interesting specimen. But the feelings kept growing stronger. Maya thought about all their interactions over the past year. The way Zephyr always made sure she had coffee in the morning, how he listened to her complain about her research without ever seeming bored, the way he laughed at her terrible jokes and helped her with groceries without being asked. I think I've been feeling something too, she admitted. I just didn't know what it was. Maya, no, let me finish. She sat back down, this time on the couch closer to his chair. Remember last month when you had to go to that conference for 3 days? I was miserable the whole time. I kept finding excuses to text you and I couldn't sleep properly until you came home. Zephyr was watching her intently now, his glow pulsing gently in rhythm with his heartbeat. And remember when I was sick with the flu, and you stayed home from work to take care of me? I kept thinking about how sweet you were, how gentle. I wondered what it would be like if... She trailed off, feeling heat rise in her cheeks. If what? If we were more than just roommates? The admission hung in the air between them. Maya could see the effect her words were having on Zephyr. His careful control was slipping and the air around him shimmered with heat. Maya, please, he said, his voice strained. You're making this so much harder for me. Maybe I don't want to make it easier. Maybe I want you to stop fighting this and talk to me honestly about what you want. What I want. Zephyr laughed, but it sounded more like a sob. I want to hold you. I want to know what it feels like when you smile because of something I said. I want to wake up next to you and fall asleep listening to your breathing. I want to share everything with you. My thoughts, my feelings, my whole life. Maya felt her breath catch. She had never heard Zephyr speak so openly about his emotions. The storm seemed to fade into background noise as she focused entirely on him. And I want to know what it's like to be truly understood by someone, he continued. To have someone know me completely and still choose to stay. Zephyr, Maya said softly. What if I told you that I want those things too? He stared at her for a long moment. I'd say that you don't know what you're agreeing to. Then help me understand. Maya stood up and moved closer to him. Show me what it feels like. Maya, if we start this, I don't know if I'll be able to stop. The cycle makes everything more intense. I might not be able to control myself. I trust you, she said simply. Those 3 words seemed to break something inside Zephyr. His careful posture crumbled and he looked up at her with such longing that Maya felt her heart skip a beat. You shouldn't, he whispered. But I do. Maya reached out slowly, giving him time to pull away if he wanted to. When he didn't move, she gently touched his cheek. His skin was warm and incredibly soft, and the moment her palm made contact, she felt a strange tingling sensation run up her arm. Zephyr gasped and closed his eyes, leaning into her touch like a man dying of thirst who had finally found water. How does that feel? Maya asked. Like coming home, he said, his voice barely audible. Maya could feel something changing in the air between them. It was like an electric current, making her skin feel sensitive and her heart beat faster. She wondered if this was the beginning of the emotional connection Zephyr had described. I can feel something, she said, wonder in her voice. It's like warmth, spreading from where I'm touching you. Zephyr opened his eyes and Maya was amazed to see that they were glowing even brighter now, like purple stars in his face. That's the beginning, he said. The emotional resonance. Maya, if we go any further, you'll start feeling what I feel. And right now what I'm feeling is, what? Need, want, love, all of it so strong it's almost overwhelming. Maya felt her knees go weak at the word love. She had never expected to hear that from him. Love? She repeated. Yes, Zephyr said, reaching up to cover her hand with his own. I love you, Maya, I have for months. And during the cycle, that love becomes so intense it's like fire in my veins. Maya stared into his glowing eyes and realized that everything had changed in that moment. Not just because of his confession, but because she could actually feel it now. Love, warm and bright and overwhelming, flowing from him to her through their connected hands. Oh, she breathed, understanding dawning on her. I can feel it. I can actually feel your love, and I can feel your surprise, your wonder, your... Zephyr paused, his expression shifting. Your fear. Maya realized he was right. Part of her was terrified by the intensity of what was happening. This was so far beyond anything she had ever experienced with another person. I'm scared, she admitted. But I'm also excited, curious, I want to know where this leads. Even if it changes everything? Especially if it changes everything. Zephyr stood up slowly, Maya's hand still on his cheek. Now they were standing very close enough that Maya could see the flecks of silver in his purple eyes. Close enough to feel the heat radiating from his skin. "Maya," he said, his voice rough with emotion. "If we do this, there's no going back. Are you absolutely sure?" Maya looked into his eyes and felt that strange warmth spreading through her entire body now. She could sense his emotions as clearly as if they were her own. Love, desire, fear, hope, all swirling together in a beautiful, terrifying mix, I'm sure, she whispered. Zephyr moved slowly, giving her every chance to change her mind. He raised his hand to cup her face, mirroring her gesture. The moment his palm touched her cheek, Maya gasped. The warmth exploded into something much stronger, like lightning running through her veins. "Is this okay?" Zephyr asked, his thumb gently stroking her cheekbone. "Yes," Maya breathed, amazed by how good such a simple touch could feel. They stood there for a moment, just holding each other's faces, sharing emotions and sensations through their connected palms. Maya could feel Zephyr's wonder at her acceptance, his relief at not having to fight his feelings anymore, and underneath it all, a love so deep and pure it brought tears to her eyes. "I can feel how much you care about me," she whispered, "and I can feel that you care about me too. Maya, your feelings are so beautiful." The storm outside chose that moment to send a particularly loud crack of thunder through the sky, making them both jump. They laughed at their reaction, and The next morning, Maya woke up feeling different. Not just because she was curled up against Zephyr on the couch instead of in her own bed, but because she could feel things that weren't quite her own. His contentment, his peace, the steady rhythm of his heartbeat that somehow matched hers now. She opened her eyes to find Zephyr already awake, watching her with those incredible violet eyes that seemed even brighter in the morning light. "Good morning," he said softly, and Maya felt his happiness at seeing her awake wash over her like warm sunshine. "Good morning," she replied, amazed by how natural this felt. "Is it always like this? Feeling each other's emotions?" "It gets easier to control as the bond strengthens," Zephyr explained, gently brushing a strand of hair from her face. "Right now everything is new and intense, but eventually you'll learn to tell which feelings are yours and which are mine." Maya sat up slowly, testing the connection between them. She could still feel it, like a golden thread linking her heart to his. When she moved away from him, the sensation didn't fade, just changed slightly. The storm stopping, she observed, looking out the window. The rain had slowed to a gentle patter, and she could see patches of blue sky between the clouds. Zephyr followed her gaze, and Maya felt a flicker of something from him. "Sadness, fear? What is it?" she asked. "Nothing," he said quickly, but Maya could feel that wasn't true. "Zephyr, I can literally feel your emotions now." "What's wrong?" He sighed and sat up, running his hands through his silver hair. "I'm scared about what happens when the storm ends completely. When we have to face the real world again." Maya felt his anxiety mixing with her own confusion. "What do you mean?" "Maya, what we did last night, it's going to change everything. Not just between us, but how other people see us. Humans and Xerians don't usually bond like this. Some people won't understand." Maya hadn't thought about that. She'd been so focused on her feelings for Zephyr and the amazing connection they were developing that she hadn't considered how others might react. "Are you having second thoughts?" she asked, trying to keep her voice steady. "No," Zephyr said immediately, and she felt the truth of it through their bond. "Never, but I'm worried about you. About how this might affect your life, your career, your relationships with other humans." Maya considered this. She was a graduate student studying alien integration. Ironically, actually integrating with an alien might be seen as either the ultimate research or a complete conflict of interest. "Let's worry about that later," she said, reaching for his hand. The moment their skin touched, that wonderful warmth flowed between them again. "Right now I want to learn more about this connection we have." Zephyr smiled, and Maya felt his relief and love pulse through their bond. "What do you want to know?" "Everything." "Can you show me some of your memories?" "Can I show you mine?" "If you want to," Zephyr said. "But Maya, when Xerians share memories, you don't just see them. You experience them as if they were your own. Are you ready for that?" Maya nodded eagerly. Her scientific mind was fascinated by the possibilities. "Close your eyes," Zephyr said softly, "and try to open your mind to mine." Maya closed her eyes and focused on the golden thread of connection between them. She felt Zephyr's presence in her mind, gentle and warm, and then suddenly she wasn't in their apartment anymore. She was standing in a vast field under a purple sky, with two suns hanging low on the horizon. The grass beneath her feet was silver, and in the distance she could see crystalline structures that looked like cities made of light. "This is Axeria," Zephyr's voice said in her mind. "My home world," Maya gasped, opening her eyes. That was incredible. It felt so real, because for me it was real. That's how memory sharing works. Now you try. Show me something from your childhood. Maya closed her eyes again and thought about her favorite memory from when she was 8 years old. Her grandmother's kitchen, the smell of chocolate chip cookies baking, the feeling of being completely safe and loved. She felt Zephyr's wonder as he experienced the memory with her, seeing through her young eyes, feeling the emotions she'd felt that day. "Your grandmother was beautiful," he said when they broke the connection. "I can feel how much she meant to you." "She always told me to be curious about everything," Maya said. "I think she would have liked you." They spent the next hour sharing memories. Zephyr showed her his first day on Earth, how overwhelming and strange everything had seemed. Maya showed him her college graduation, the pride and hope she'd felt about her future. With each shared memory, Maya felt their connection growing stronger. It was like they were weaving their lives together, creating something entirely new. "Zephyr," she said during a quiet moment, "can you tell me about other bonded couples? What are their relationships like?" Zephyr was quiet for a moment, gathering his thoughts. Every bond is different. Some couples become so connected that they can't function independently. Others maintain separate lives but share everything emotionally. "Which kind do you think will be?" "I don't know," he admitted. "But Maya, I want you to know that no matter how our bond develops, I never want you to lose yourself. You're amazing exactly as you are, and I don't want being connected to me to change that." Maya felt touched by his concern. "What if I want to change? What if growing closer to you helps me become a better version of myself?" "Then that would be wonderful," Zephyr said, pulling her closer. "I just want you to always have a choice." As the day progressed, Maya noticed that their connection was indeed getting stronger. She found herself knowing what Zephyr was thinking before he spoke. When he was hungry, her stomach would growl. When she felt curious about something, she could feel his mind turning toward the same question. But it wasn't overwhelming or frightening like she'd expected. Instead, it felt like having a conversation with her best friend, except the conversation was happening in emotions and sensations instead of words. "Is this what love is supposed to feel like?" Maya asked as they made lunch together. Every time Zephyr handed her something, their fingers would brush, sending little sparks of warmth up her arms. "I don't know what love feels like for humans," Zephyr replied. "But for Axerians, love is about understanding and accepting someone completely. It's about wanting their happiness even more than your own." Maya thought about that. "I think I understand. When I feel your emotions, I don't just feel them. I want to make sure you only feel the good ones." "Exactly." Zephyr stopped chopping vegetables and looked at her. "Maya, you're adapting to this connection better than I ever hoped. Most humans would be overwhelmed by the intensity." "Maybe I'm not like most humans," Maya said with a smile. "No," Zephyr agreed, his love for her flowing through their bond like warm honey. "You're definitely not." That afternoon, as the storm continued to weaken outside, they discovered another aspect of their bond. Maya was reading a research paper on her tablet, when suddenly she found herself understanding concepts that had been confusing her for weeks. "Zephyr," she said excitedly, "I think I'm accessing some of your knowledge. This paper about interspecies communication, I understand it now in a way I didn't before." Zephyr looked up from his own reading. "That's possible. Bonded Axerians sometimes share learned information as well as emotions and memories. What are you understanding now?" Maya explained her new insights and Zephyr nodded in amazement. "You're right. And Maya, I think it's working both ways. I'm understanding some of your human research methodologies that never made sense to me before." They spent the evening testing this new aspect of their connection, sharing knowledge and insights back and forth. Maya found herself understanding Axerian culture and biology in ways that no textbook could have taught her, while Zephyr gained new perspectives on human behavior and scientific thinking. "This is incredible," Maya said as they settled back onto the couch that night. "We're like a living example of successful interspecies integration." More than that, Zephyr said, wrapping his arms around her. We're proof that love can transcend species, culture, even biology itself. Maya looked up at him, still amazed by the intensity of emotion she could see in his glowing eyes. What happens tomorrow? When the storm is completely over and we have to go back to our regular lives? We figure it out together, Zephyr said simply. Whatever challenges come, we'll face them as a team. That's what bonded partners do. Maya felt his certainty and determination through their connection, and it filled her with confidence. They had created something beautiful and unique, and she wasn't going to let fear or uncertainty ruin it. I love you, she said, and felt the words resonate through their bond, carrying with them all the depth of feeling that simple words couldn't express. I love you too, Zephyr replied, and Maya knew that no matter what tomorrow brought, they would face it together. Outside, the last of the storm clouds were finally beginning to clear, revealing stars that seemed to shine just for them. 3 months later, Maya stood in front of her research committee, presenting findings that were about to change everything anyone thought they knew about human-alien relationships. The data shows that bonded pairs demonstrate significantly improved problem-solving abilities, enhanced emotional stability, and increased empathy toward other species, she explained, clicking through slides on her presentation. What we're seeing isn't just romantic attachment but actual evolutionary adaptation. Dr. Rodriguez, her advisor, leaned forward with interest. Maya, these results are remarkable, but I have to ask, how did you gather such detailed data on the bonding process? Maya felt a flutter of nervousness, followed immediately by a wave of calm and encouragement from Zephyr, who was sitting in the back of the room. Their connection had grown stronger over the past months, but they'd learned to control it better too. I had a very willing research partner, Maya said with a small smile. After her presentation, Maya walked outside to find Zephyr waiting for her under their favorite tree on campus. He was holding 2 cups of coffee and wearing the proud smile that always made her heart skip a beat. So, he asked, handing her a cup. How did it go? They want to publish it, Maya said, still hardly believing it herself. Dr. Rodriguez thinks it could be groundbreaking for interspecies integration research. Zephyr's excitement flowed through their bond, mixing with her own until Maya felt like she might burst from happiness. Maya, this is incredible. You're going to help so many couples like us, it was true. Over the past months, Maya had discovered that she and Zephyr weren't as unique as they'd thought. There were other human-alien couples struggling with similar questions and challenges. Her research was already helping them understand their relationships better. How was your day? Maya asked as they walked toward home. Their new apartment was in a quieter part of the city, with actual trees and a view that didn't involve flood zones. Interesting, Zephyr said. I had 3 new clients today. All of them were humans asking for advice about alien partners. Zephyr had started working part-time as a relationship counselor, specializing in interspecies couples. His unique perspective and natural empathy made him incredibly effective at helping others navigate the challenges of cross-cultural relationships. Any difficult cases? There was one couple, a human woman and a Centaurian male. They're struggling because Centaurians don't experience emotions the same way humans do. She thinks he doesn't care about her, but he's actually showing affection in ways she doesn't recognize. Maya felt Zephyr's satisfaction at having helped them understand each other better. Over the months, she'd watched him grow more confident in his role as a bridge between different species. You know what I realized today? Maya said as they climbed the stairs to their apartment. What? 6 months ago, I was studying alien integration as an academic concept. Now I'm living it every day, and it's taught me more than any textbook ever could. Zephyr smiled and pulled her close for a kiss. Even now, months after their bonding, the simple contact sent warm sparks through Maya's entire body. What brought that on? He asked. I was just thinking about how much our lives have changed, and how much we've changed each other. It was true. Maya had always been curious and open-minded, but her connection with Zephyr had expanded her perspective in ways she never could have imagined. She understood alien cultures intuitively now, could sense when non-human students in her classes were struggling with concepts, and had developed an almost supernatural ability to help different species communicate with each other. Zephyr had changed too. When Maya first met him, he'd been reserved and careful, always worried about fitting in. Now he was confident, outgoing, and had found his purpose in helping others navigate the same challenges he'd once faced. Do you ever miss how things were before? Maya asked as they settled onto their couch. When life was simpler. Zephyr considered the question seriously. I miss not worrying about how other people judge our relationship, he said. But I wouldn't trade what we have now for anything. Maya nodded. They had faced challenges over the past months. Some of Maya's old friends didn't understand her relationship with an alien. Some of Zephyr's colleagues had questioned whether bonding with a human was appropriate. There had been stares, whispered comments, and a few outright rude encounters. But there had also been support from unexpected places. Maya's professor had been fascinated by their bond and had helped her turn their relationship into legitimate research. Zephyr's supervisor at the communications center had been thrilled when Zephyr's new perspective helped solve several difficult integration cases. I got a call from my sister today, Maya said, curling up next to Zephyr. How is she? Better. She apologized for how she reacted when I first told her about us. She said she's been doing research and realizes she was being narrow-minded. Maya's family had been the biggest challenge. Her parents had been confused but supportive. Her sister had been openly hostile, convinced that Maya was making a huge mistake. It had taken months of patience and education for her sister to come around. I'm glad, Zephyr said, stroking Maya's hair. I know that was hard for you. She wants to meet you properly this time. Maybe have dinner next weekend? I'd like that. Maya felt Zephyr's genuine desire to be accepted by her family through their bond. It had hurt him when her sister rejected him, even though he'd tried to hide it. Zephyr, Maya said, I have something to tell you. She felt his immediate attention and slight concern. What is it? Dr. Rodriguez offered me a position, assistant professor with my own research lab, focusing on interspecies relationship dynamics. Zephyr sat up, his excitement making Maya's heart race. Maya, that's wonderful. When do you start? If I take it next fall. But Zephyr, it would mean staying here long term. Making the city our permanent home. I wanted to make sure you're okay with that. Through their bond, Maya felt Zephyr's overwhelming joy and love. Maya, anywhere you are is home for me. But are you sure this is what you want? I've never been more sure of anything in my life. They held each other in comfortable silence, both thinking about the future they were building together. Through their connection, Maya could feel Zephyr's hopes and dreams mixing with her own, creating plans neither of them could have imagined alone. I have news too, Zephyr said eventually. Oh? The Interspecies Council wants me to develop a training program for relationship counselors, teaching other counselors how to work with mixed couples. Maya felt a surge of pride for him. Zephyr, that's amazing. You'd be helping people across the entire planet. I'd have to travel sometimes, giving seminars and training sessions. Maya tested her feelings about being separated from Zephyr for short periods. Their bond was strong enough now that distance wouldn't break it, just make it feel different. I think you should do it, she said. You have so much wisdom to share. Even if it means being apart sometimes. We'll always be connected, Maya said, pressing her hand to his heart. Physical distance can't change that now. As if to prove her point, Maya sent a wave of love and confidence through their bond, feeling Zephyr's immediate response of gratitude and affection. Later that evening, as they prepared dinner together, Maya reflected on how natural everything felt now. The way they moved around each other in the kitchen, the way they could communicate entire conversations with just glances and touches, the way they supported each other's dreams and ambitions. You know what's funny? Maya said as she watched Zephyr chopping vegetables with the same precise care he brought to everything. What? I used to think that finding the right person meant finding someone who was exactly like me, someone who understood me because we had similar backgrounds and experiences. And now? Now I realize that finding the right person means finding someone who makes you want to grow, someone who challenges you to become better than you ever thought you could be. Zephyr stopped chopping and looked at her with those incredible violet eyes that still made her heart skip a beat. You've made me better too, you know. More confident, more purposeful, more connected to the world around me. We make each other better. Yes, we do. That night, as they lay in bed talking about their plans for the future, Maya marveled at the journey that had brought them here. A storm had trapped them together and forced them to face feelings they'd both been hiding. What could have been a disaster had instead become the beginning of something beautiful. Maya, Zephyr said softly in the darkness. Yes? Do you ever think about other couples like us? Humans and aliens who might be afraid to take the risk we took? All the time, why? I think we have a responsibility to show them that it's possible. That love really can transcend any barrier if people are brave enough to try. Maya smiled in the darkness. Is that why you work so hard with your counseling clients? Partly. And it's why your research is so important too. We're not just living our own love story, Maya. We're proving that the future can be different. Better. Maya felt the truth of his words resonate through their bond. They had become more than just a couple in love. They had become a bridge between worlds, proof that understanding and acceptance could overcome fear and prejudice. I love you, Maya whispered, sending the feeling through their connection so that Zephyr could experience the full depth of her emotions. Ellie.